Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to America once again, and we're returning to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. So the last beer that I reviewed from these guys actually came a number of years ago, and that was a bottle that my parents brought back with them from New England for me from their trip over there. But this brewery are actually very well respected when it comes to Belgian style and wild ales, a premier brewery in the US when it comes to that sort of thing actually, and they do some really interesting beers, and I'm hoping that I can maybe go and visit this brewery at some point in 2023, so we'll need to see what we can do about that. But the beer we're looking at today is a style that I haven't covered all that much on the channel. It's a style that I kind of quite enjoy whenever I can find them, but you just don't find all that many of them, and it's also got a real local twist to it, this one, which I think should make it really interesting. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Definitely nice to return to this brewery after such a long time, so hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Portland in Maine, in the northeastern part of New England in the northeastern US, a very well known beer region these days, and we're going to have a look at my second beer from Allagash Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called 16 Counties. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a golden ale, and it really is a very local Maine beer, this one, and we'll explain why a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, the last beer that I reviewed from these guys, I'm pretty sure, was called Black, and yeah, it was like a black saison or something like that, if I remember correctly, but it was a very interesting beer. But yeah, Allagash, very famous, as I say, in the US in beer circles for their Belgian style and wild ales. So hopefully we can go and visit these guys later in the year, as I mentioned. But let's crack on and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Incidentally, this one was released as part of the Tillfällig assortment through Systembolaget, I believe at the end of November 2022. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Allagash Brewing Company before, and we will hopefully add more to that list in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. Just go up there, put in your your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from your local area, they should pop up. Otherwise, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist, and that will be getting added to quite a little bit over the next wee while, of course. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and we'll chat a wee bit about Allagash Brewing Company. So, Allagash Brewing Company, as I've told you before, was founded by Rob Todd back in 1995, and these guys are based in Portland, in Maine, in the northeast of New England, in the northeastern part of the US. So Rob had worked in a number of breweries before he founded Allagash, and at that time he really just recognised that Belgian beers were particularly hard to find in the US, and so it was this that he decided to put his focus upon. So he established a small 15-barrel brewery, and he began brewing Allagash White in the summer of 1995, and this beer really gained some traction over the next few years and went on to win medals. But a little bit later on in 1999, Jason Perkins joined the brewery, and he started to introduce other styles to them, and then later in 2004 they started their experiments with barrel aging. But 2005 saw them begin their experiments with mixed fermentation, and in 2007 Rob travelled to Belgium with a group of who are now well-known American brewers, and this inspired him to install a cool ship in his brewery, and this meant that they became the first brewery in the US to brew Belgian style spontaneously fermented beers. So yeah, these guys were the first wild ale brewery in the US, which I think is pretty cool. But all of this activity meant that they had to expand, and so in 2010 they moved to a new building next door to the one that they started off in. They added a larger tasting room in there, and they've gradually expanded their brewing infrastructure over the years. You know, they've added canning lines, they've had a bigger bottling line, and so on. So yeah, they've been working hard to expand this. But these days they produce around 100,000 US barrels of beer per year, which in real measurements, not freedom units, is 16 million litres roughly, and they're distributing to a good number, about 20 states in the US, and of course they are exporting some of their beer abroad as well. But as of January 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 240 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. That's not including collaboration brews that they've done. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Allagash Brewing Company for the moment. As I say, the really cool point about this brewery is that they are the first American wild ale brewery, and yeah, the first one in the States as well to specialise in Belgian style beers, I guess you could say. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can check out the Untappd page to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So this one, I think this is 1 American pint. Is that right? Yeah, this is 1 American pint. It says 473 millilitres in there. But you can see the artwork on this one is very, very nice. I believe they release this beer quite often, actually. It didn't say on the website how often they release this one, but there you can see at the top of the can, Allagash, with the sort of autumn leaf there. It's 16 counties. The name of the beer comes from the fact that Maine has 16 counties. But yeah, the special thing about this beer is that it's grown with it's brewed, sorry, with all Maine grown and Maine malted malt, if that makes sense. But yeah, 6.5% ABV golden ale. It says on the back here, thanks to our farmer friends, we're lucky to partner with talented farmers and maltsters across Maine. This beer is brewed in gratitude for their dedication. But yeah, I managed to find out the types of malts that they've used in this one. So the 4 varieties that they have in this are Maine Malts House 2 Row from Buck Farms, Blue Ox Malt House 2 Row, Maine Grains Raw Wheat, and also Aurora Mills and Farm Oats are the 4 varieties that are in this one. So yeah, you've got a bit of wheat, a bit of oat, and a bit of barley malt in this one, which should be quite interesting. I honestly can't remember how much I paid for this beer. I'm guessing it might have been in the region of like 35 Swedish kroner. So that is about €3.50, potentially about $4 American, maybe about £3.75 sterling, something like that. But yeah, as I said, 473 mils this one, 1 American pint, and yeah, 6.5% golden ale with all Maine malts. So yeah, that should be quite interesting. But let's get this guy out into the glass and see what we make of it. The 16 counties, 6.5% golden ale from Allagash Brewing Company. So yeah, let's do this. So there we go. Yeah, so as you can see, it's poured pretty much as you would expect of any golden ale, to be honest with you. But before the head disappears on this one, we can see that it's got just over a finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But you can see it has this lovely pale golden straw colour. It actually looks a little bit like a German Helles in many ways. It reminds me of some of these Brauhaus Helles beers that I was drinking a few months back when I was down in Germany. But yeah, you can see, I don't know how well that's going to show up on the camera, but you can see this beer's been in my fridge for like a month or two. So yeah, this is one I just kind of didn't get round to yet. But yeah, you can see this one has those little bits of particles floating around. I don't know how long it took them to actually get this beer over from the US, and that's one of the problems for importers with Systembolaget here in Sweden. It can take a little while to get the beers actually out and on the shelf. But yeah, nice little bit of natural haze to this beer. As we said earlier, lovely kind of bright yellow golden colour, this one. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil will also play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect that too. But yeah, I think we don't really need to, when it comes to golden ales, obviously you don't need to care too much about that unless it's a wild ale. This one is not a wild ale from what I understand. But yeah, I don't think we need to say anything else about the appearance of this beer. We can just go on and have a wee look at the aroma, I guess. Yeah. have to say that does smell pretty nice actually. I think this. I'm curious to see what this is actually going to be like in the flavour. As I say, golden ales are, for at least in Europe, they're quite difficult to come across these days. Probably the only country you would really get them in would be um, England or yeah, Belgium as well. And I will say with this one, um, it does actually smell a little bit Belgian. I will say that. So maybe it's a Belgian golden ale, this one, rather than just a straight up golden ale. Um, which would make sense but now that I think about it. I didn't actually think about that before I read the notes out for the video, so that was a bit stupid of me, I have to say, but there we go. Yeah, but yeah, this I have to say, this beer for me, first impression of this one is, yeah, I'm thinking from the aroma there, this is a Belgian golden ale. It's not just like a kind of straight up sort of English golden ale or whatever. Yeah, this. I think this is pretty much going to be a Belgian golden ale. Lovely yeasty characters to it. You get a lot of the kind of smoothness of the malt. Nice little bit of bright hoppy character to it. And yeah, you've got a little bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty fruit. So yeah, kind of makes sense as well when it's 6.5%. If it was, you know, a regular English golden ale or whatever, it would be a little bit less than that. So yeah, I think I've been a bit. I think I've had a bit of a brain fart when doing this review. But you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, aroma wise, this beer is really nice. Let's just break it down and describe it for you that wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of the beer, you absolutely have a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. That's quite obvious in this one. Above that, you've got some fluffy fresh white bread from the two different kinds of barley malt in the beer, and then yeah, and then you have a little bit of the yeah, and then you have a little bit of the kind of more dense wheaty character on top of that, which is really nice. The wheat actually has a little bit of bitiness at the back of the nose, but otherwise it's very smooth. And this is the thing I always find with malts. I think everyone talks about hops and things these days, but you've got other really interesting things in beer like coffee beans and the malt varieties too. The yeast, of course, plays a hugely important role. Different malt varieties that are grown in different parts of the world will taste slightly different. You know, it's just chemistry. You've got different water profiles in the soil, you've got different chemical compositions in the soil as well. All of these things play a role. You have to think about this when you're tasting beer. So with this beer, for me, the malty character is really nice and just it's really smooth and quite bright and zippy at the same time. But yeah, the wheaty character in this one, you can feel in the middle of the nose that it's quite smooth, but in the back of the nose it's a little bit zippy and just a little bit bitey. You definitely get some of that out of this one. But on top of that, you can smell the smoothness of the oats. And it's interesting for me is when it comes to IPAs, usually oats are an indicator of how fresh the beer is. And in IPAs, the creamier they are, the better. The drier they are, the older the beer it is. But with this one, for me, the oats actually still smell really creamy, but at the same time, they give you a little bit of dryness and a little bit of sweetness, which I do like. But the one thing I haven't mentioned about this beer yet is the yeasty characteristics. This beer does have a nice kind of yeasty note to it. It's almost got just a little touch of a kind of clovey or slightly coriander type note to it. I'm tempted to say coriander because it doesn't come across as overly Weizen-like. It's more like a kind of Belgian wit type yeasty character that's coming out of this one. So there's definitely a wee bit of that going on. There's a little bit of a kind of slightly coriander-y spice. You've got that sort of crackery, woody, bready character in there too. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that sense is it's really nice on the malty and yeasty side of things. There's a few sort of woody characters come out of this one as well, the more that you smell of it. But it's very bright and quite a zesty beer as well in a sense. So I like that. I certainly do like that. So on the hoppy side of things then, to go there, the hoppy side of the beer for me, I'd be very curious to know what they've used in this one. It didn't say actually. But yeah, the hoppy character for me is the green component in this beer is quite bright. You've got a little bit of smooth earthiness and a little bit of herbal character. That does make me wonder if they have perhaps used like maybe a German noble hop of some description, one of the Hallertaus or Tettnangers or something like that. Potentially a wee bit of a stronger one, so it could be like Pearl or Hercules. But of course you've got many different American hops that would fit this one. Centennial would potentially fit this beer quite well actually with the sort of fruity characters that it has. But yeah, you've got quite a nice big bright floral green component to it. You've got some nice You definitely have some nice grassiness in there as well. So yeah, a little bit of nice grassiness in there, a little bit of floral character as we said, and it's quite bright in its green component. So yeah, I'm curious to see how much the hops play, or how much of a role the hops play. I can't speak English anymore. Yeah, so the green component in this beer is really quite nice and quite bright, and it sort of suits the kind of zippy character of the wheat that you find in the beer. So on the on the fruity side of things, then let's have a wee look at that. The fruity side of the beer for me, I get, there's a little bit of apricot in this one. Yeah, a little bit of apricot for me. There's maybe a little touch of like a perry or sultana type note to the beer, but I do get quite a little bit. For me, it's apricot and papaya that you get out of this. It's quite soft in its fruity notes, but then you've also got a little bit of a kind of lemony zesty character at the front of the nose, and it's that lemony zesty character that's making me think Centennial. Centennial, of course, is about 12% alpha acid American hop. The other one that comes to mind would be like maybe Simcoe or Idaho 7. Could be a shout for this one, because Simcoe would give you that kind of soft mangoey type note. Can also give you that sort of apricot-y character as well, but Idaho 7 would be another one. That also gives you the really soft kind of tropical character to this one, but at the same time there is just something a bit German about the green component of the beer, the brightness that it has. Yeah, I really don't know. It's a bit difficult to pick out what hop this could be, and it doesn't say on the can. It talks about the malt, which obviously is supposed to be the focus of this beer, with it being called 16 counties. It was kind of interesting. I read on the website that was it back in 2017. Rob Todd actually made a commitment that he and Allagash Brewery would use 1 million tons of was it 1 million? He was going to use a million tons of Maine grown malt basically in his beers at the brewery by 2021, which I believe they've met actually. So yeah, quite interesting. But yeah, the main focus of this beer, as I say, is the malt, and it does have some really interesting characteristics. As I say, very quite smooth and quite thick at the same time actually, but still airy, if that makes sense. So yeah, as I always say, take a wee bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the 16 Counties, a 6.5% golden ale from Allagash Brewing Company in Portland in Maine, brewed with 4 varieties of Maine grown and Maine malted malt. So yeah, let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's nice. I will say straight away, this is really nice, and just it's very smooth and a very easy drinking beer, this one. Yeah. So it kind of it has a wee bit of that sort of Belgian-y, yeasty character to it, particularly in the aftertaste. You will find that this beer will progress out and give you more of that kind of, it will give you a little bit more of that yeasty, Belgian-y type character the further you go into the aftertaste, but it is really, really nice in that sense. Yeah, the malty side of this one as well is really interesting. It's quite different from, as I say, I've not had a golden ale in a long time, but it's quite different from what I was expecting of it. Come to think of it, but I really like this. So thumbs up to Allagash. This is a really nice beer. It's a good place to sort of start your evening. It'd be really interesting to see these. I've not looked to see if they do, but going by how this beer turns out, it would be really interesting to see these guys have a go at some kind of the sort of Keller lagers from these German styles of beer. That would be a really interesting move for these guys, because this is very good. Yeah. So yeah, Really nice stuff, this one. So where do we start with this beer? We'll start in the middle third of the palate, as we always do. So, backbone of the beer, you get that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of it. So yeah, that just forms the backbone of the beer. It's really, really nice in that sense. So yeah, toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of a kind of woody note to it, but then above the bread crust, there's a wee bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. So yeah, you've got that, yeah, bread crusty backbone, Jacob's cream cracker, and a little bit of a kind of woody, a little bit of a kind of woody character in there as well. So, yeah, brown bread crust in there, Jacob's cream cracker, a little bit of a little bit of woodiness in there too, and then you start to get all the other kind of malty layers out of this one. So yeah, in fairness, I actually get above the kind of Jacob's cream cracker. I don't know how good a reference that is for Americans that would watch the video incidentally, but yeah, for me there is, as I say, bread crust, a little bit of cracker, then you get this layer of kind of wholemeal. It's like a wet wholemeal brown bread. That's what I'm getting above that in the middle of the palate. Then you get a layer of like kind of fluffy and quite airy white bread, and then you get the more dense wheaty layer just kind of sitting on top. And the wheat actually, it's interesting because the wheat actually smoothens out the beer, but it has a little bit of dryness to it as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, this is one of these beers where the flavour is very, very layered, and you get lots and lots of different things. Above the wheaty layer, you get the oaty character coming out of the beer. And so the oats down the middle line of your palate are kind of wet and slightly creamy, but as you move out toward the edges of the palate, they give you a little bit more dryness, and you've got a wee touch of sweetness in this as well. In the dead centre of your palate, in that middle third of your tongue, there's a little concentration of, you know, kind of like biscuity syrup, and that'll be the alcohol in the beer, of course. That's, you always get that little bit of kind of biscuity or brown sugary quality. That's the alcohol coming out of the beer. So you get that in the dead centre of your palate. Then as you move out toward the edges of your tongue, it gives you a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of vibe. So I like that. Yeah, the the McVitie's digestive kind of character you get out of this one, it sweetens up the further into the aftertaste that you go, and you also get a little touch of the woodiness and the kind of bread crusty character coming out of this beer too. So yeah, it does start to lean more towards its yeasty side, this beer, the further into the aftertaste you go. But as I say, I really like this. I think this is a very, very nice beer, this one. My colleague at the Bishop's Arms, Alan, would love this, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he tried this one, actually. But yeah, this is good. So, in terms of the, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate. The back third of the palate then, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, I think you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there, like white bread, but still, as I say, a little bit grainy, and it's almost got a little touch of like a peppery, coriandery, well, maybe not coriander, more of a peppery thing like that. I was picking up a little bit of coriander in the aroma of this beer, but not so much in the flavour. But the backbone of that back third of your palate, yeah, you've got a little bit of a kind of grainy, yeah, you have a little bit of a kind of grainy, bread crusty sort of thing in there. That forms the backbone of the beer, and of course that's a little bit dry. Remember, more bitter and dry flavours come out further back on the palate, sweeter flavours come out further forward. But then yes, you've got that grainy bread crusty layer, you get the cream cracker sort of thing once again, which is of course drier too. Then you get the wholemeal brown bread sort of layer, and that feels a little bit taller and a bit more airy. Then you've got the white bready layer from the barley malt as well, which feels a little bit, again, that feels taller and more airy. Then you've got the wheat sitting above that, actually, so that's kind of quite interesting as well. So the wheat gives you just a little touch of bitiness. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, in that sense, I think is very nice. You get that little bit of wheaty bitiness out of it, which I think is great. Um, yeah, the I would say the sort of above the wheaty bitiness, you do get a little bit more of a kind of airy farmhousey type thing to it. So there's a little bit of an almost just really farmhousey bread wrapped in a little bit of like honeycomb or something. You just get these really airy yeasty flavors. Above that, I always seem to get a little bit of honeycomb in the back of my palate for some reason from a lot of these beers, and yeah, you just get a little bit more of the graininess and a slight peppery spice coming out of this beer the further into the aftertaste you go. The focus of this beer, of course, is the malt and to a degree the yeast because of the fact that it's Allagash Brewery. But yeah, malty wise and yeasty wise, I think this is really nice. It's like a sort of, it's like a kind of farm. Yeah, it's more like a sort of farmhousey, it's very slight like a farmhousey Belgian golden ale. This one, but the yeast isn't quite as sweet, if that makes sense, compared to what you get in Belgium. But of course, they've not added brew sugar to this beer as they do with a number of Belgian styles. So that's probably the difference with this one. But as I say, I like this beer. But definitely back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, the flavour just condenses down and squashes together that wee bit more. So yeah, this is good. Yeah. So on the hoppy side of things, as I say, this beer is not at its freshest point. So the hoppy character will not be in its prime. We need to say that straight away about this review, just to be objective and things. But yeah, you still get quite a bit of hoppy character out of this one. I don't know if it has a canned on date. Does it say? Packaged 3/01/22, and that's going to be the weird American dates, isn't it? So it's packaged on the 1st of March. So this beer is, when I'm reviewing this for you, it's about 9 months old. Okay. Well, I have to say, for it being 9 months old, still in pretty good condition. But this was released, I'm pretty sure, in November 2022. So that kind of goes to show you how long it takes Systembolaget to get things on the shelf here. But as I say, the beer is still in good condition. In the back corners of the palate, at least with this one, you get a nice little bit of earthiness in there, and it's smooth, but it still gives you a wee bit of bitterness. As you move further forward, there's a little bit of a herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, it gives you a little bit more kind of floral aromaticity. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a wee bit lighter and more grassy, but yeah, I think it goes together really well. So yeah, the the fruity side of this beer, or the hoppy side of this beer, I think is really really nice. Um, yeah, the hoppy, yeah, see a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character. As you push further forward, it just gives you a little bit more of that floral aromatic brightness there. It's not madly bitter, this beer, but it does give you a little bit of bitterness just to balance out the graininess and the sort of wheaty bitiness that the beer has. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more. It's a bit lighter and a wee bit more grassy. But yeah, I think everything goes together rather nicely in this beer, so it gets a thumbs up from me. On the, I think on the fruity side of things, then we look at the front third of the palate now. The border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there. The base of the front third of your palate has a little bit of that kind of bread crusty note and a bit of the Jacob's cream cracker, potentially a bit of white bread. Then above that, you get the nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. Um, yeah. So, um, yeah, for me, the the fruity esters that come out of this beer are kind of as I described in the aroma. This is one of the places where the beer really agrees with the aroma. But at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of sultana type note to it. You've also got a little touch of pear there, but as you move further forward into the middle of that front third of your palate, I do get a little bit of the apricot little touch of papaya and things, and then as you reach the front of that front third of your palate, you get a little touch. There's almost a little slight gooseberry note to this one, and you have a wee bit of just a kind of lemon limey character. I do wonder, could it just be a little bit of Citra they've put in this? I don't know. Could be. I'd love to know what hop they've used in this beer, because it is. When I taste it, I do wonder. It feels very, very familiar, and I do wonder if it maybe is just a little bit of a wee touch of Citra or something like that. Because you know the gooseberry notes could be Hatherton Blanc or Nelson Sauvin. The kind of limey character could be Motueka from New Zealand, or a bit of Equinaut. The lemony character could be Centennial. You know the fruits notes that you get this one, as I say there might be Simcoe or Idaho 7. You know, it's a bit hard to pick out. I would love to know what hops they've used in this beer. It's but whatever it is, I think it works really well. Just that little bit of, you've got the oily pear, the little bit of sultana, a bit of apricot, a little bit of papaya underneath, then yeah, a wee touch of gooseberry and kind of lemon limey character as well, particularly toward the front tip of the tongue. So yeah, this beer goes together really nicely for me. It gets a big thumbs up. Yeah, I like it. I really do like how this goes together. So as I say, thumbs up to Allagash Brewing Company for this beer. It's been really nice to try this one. Yeah, so I think we can round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel for this one then. So for me, mouthfeel, it's kind of top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. Yeah, carbonation is nice and smooth with this one. Carbonation is quite smooth. Overall, it is quite a light, kind of crisp beer in a sense, but it's smooth and kind of more yeasty at the same time. Typical sort of farmhousey mouthfeel. IBU wise, I think this is maybe about 20-25 IBUs, but you do have a little bit of graininess and a little bit of spice and dryness and things that could make you think it maybe is potentially a bit more, but it's, you know, just have to be careful not to conflate that, of course. But yeah, I think that all goes together really quite nicely. On the malty side of things, as we've said, and the malty and yeasty side of things, as we said, there's a bit of dryness and a bit of graininess there. A little bit of kind of dryness in the middle, then some nice smooth bready characters, little tiny touch of sweetness. Then on the fruity side of the beer, you've got a wee bit of a kind of, you do have a little bit of a, just a nice kind of smooth fruity character to it. I think it's a really nice beer, this one. It's like a golden ale with a bit of a kind of farmhousey, saison-y type element to it. And yeah, it's cool to see how these main grains come out in the beer. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this one. I think this has been really nice to try. So yeah, I think that's everything that we really need to say about this beer. So this was the 16 Counties, a 6.5% golden ale from Allagash Brewing Company in Maine, in New England, in the northeastern US. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Allagash Brewing Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But until the next time, slange it, skull, cheers, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Slange it just now.